Hey, world history. Welcome to U11-L2 Basics of the Age of Exploration, Part 1. So make sure that you did U11-L1 web quest and quiz before the slideshow, just because U11-L1 gives a lot more background information that I'm skipping over today. So about this unit is very different than all the other units because there is no summative, there is no study guide. It is a mini unit, it is only 5 days long. Because of this, I have bumped up some of the point values for the formative assignments, which you can see right here if you're curious. So learning targets, students can explain the social, political, and economic changes in Europe that led to transoceanic exploration and colonizations. We'll also talk more about this in Unit 13, and also to describe the interactions and negotiations between the Americans, such as the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas, and European explorers, as well as their consequences, which we talked about a little bit before back in the Inca video in Unit 10. Another learning target, assess the social and demographic impact of the Columbian Exchange on Europe, the Americas, and Africa. So we're going to talk about that a lot more in Unit 13, but we will also get to that this unit, which is U11-L4, a Luda Equiano reading. Also to compare and contrast the forms of slavery and other non-free labor systems among African, European, and Arab societies, analyze the causes and consequences of chattel slavery in the Atlantic, which we will talk a little bit more today or this unit with U11-L4 Aluda Equiano reading. Then kind of the oddball this week is U11-L5. So the learning target for that one is analyze the varied responses in China to increasingly worldwide economic and cultural exchanges. So U11-L5 is the story of China with Michael Wood. That's this BBC special that you're going to watch. It's an Edpuzzle video. And you're probably like, wait, why did we just switch from talking about the Americas to China? Yeah, good question. So when we usually think about the age of exploration, right? We think about Christopher Columbus and all the other European explorers, but China also had an age of exploration during this time period. So that's where Michael Wood, who's the narrator and the guy who goes throughout China, is going to talk about the Ming Dynasty and their explorations. Your job, you're going to watch this Edpuzzle, answer the questions. Any question that is in blue text are going to be questions I want you to answer directly on the Edpuzzle. There are no, like I said before, there isn't a study guide, but there are still some words in red text. And you're like, why are there still words in red text? There's no study guide. Great question. So at the end of this week, you have a vocab quiz, and the vocabulary for that quiz will be from these slideshows. So heads up, today is going to talk about some heavy topics like racism and enslavement. We're getting into the time period, which is about 1500s to modern day, where pseudoscience, which are false sciences and beliefs, and societal racism come into relevance. These false and harmful ideologies will be a part of all the units until the end of the semester. But as always, let us know if you have any questions. We are here to help. So, first question for you. Name 2 pieces of information that you remember or stick out to you most from U11-L1. There was a lot, I know. So, let's start off with talking about Christopher Columbus. So, as probably a lot of you know, he voyaged from Spain in 1492. He landed in the Bahamas. So, some textbooks, specifically older textbooks, say that he thought he landed in India. Yeah, no, that wasn't true. So, he knew for sure he was not in India. He knew this because he had the navigational tools and measurements of the Earth's circumference to know that he was not in India. When he landed in the Bahamas, he would meet the Taino people. So, here are the Taino people. They occupied what is now modern day Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. When Christopher Columbus arrived in 1492, the population was 1 to 2 million Taínos. Now keep that in mind. 1 to 2 million. Okay? Hold on to that thought. They were an agricultural society, so they grew things such as yams, tobacco, cassava, and peppers. So here's a map of where the Taíno region is historically. So you see Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, Bahamas. So, with the Taino people, by 1520, only a few thousand Taino people were still alive. Remember, 2 slides ago, I said there was 1 to 2 million in 1492. By 1520, there were only a few thousand. Wow. That's not even 30 years. What is that? Less than 30 years. So many of these people died due to being enslaved, starvation, and disease brought by the Europeans. By 1550, almost all the Taino peoples were wiped out. Now, there are still Taino people today. There is no exact population number of how many there are, but there are groups that are in New York, Florida, New Jersey, and Puerto Rico. So, online websites say that Columbus found America. So, here's a question. Did Columbus actually find America? Why? No, he did not find America. There were already thousands of native tribes already calling North America home. Today, just to put it in perspective, there are 574 tribes in the United States, 68 in Mexico, 826 in Central America and the Caribbean countries, and 630 in Canada. And that does not even include the South American countries. So here is a map of all the native tribes today in the United States and the Native American tribes today in Mexico. And then in the Caribbean as well. So, how the natives were treated. So, European explorers were not traveling to make friends. They were traveling to steal resources, to steal land, and to oppress the native population. Religion was also used as a weapon during this time period. So, explorers did not give a bleep if the natives converted or not. Okay? The Europeans wanted the natives to convert in order for them to suppress their culture, right? So when the natives would convert to Christianity, that meant all of a sudden they had to play by Christianity's rules, which would then suppress their native culture that they probably have been practicing for hundreds, if not thousands of years. New religion also meant new rules, such as forcing the native population to give money to the church and obeying the church hierarchy. So Columbus had his men read out a decree to all of the Taino people in the middle of the night in Spanish, claiming these 4 things: that the Taino land was not part of Spain, all Taino people had to convert to Christianity, all Taino people were under Spanish rule, and anyone who defies will be killed. So, 2 questions for you. What's the problem with speaking to the natives at night? What's the problem with speaking to the natives in Spanish? So, speaking at night, people are asleep. No one's around to hear anybody. What's the problem with speaking to the natives in Spanish? Christopher Columbus literally just stepped foot onto the Bahamas. None of the Taino people know Spanish. There are no interpreters. They have no idea what they're talking about. So Columbus also enslaved the natives. We talked a little bit about that with Pizarro last unit and the forcement of giving food and working on farms when we talked about the Incas. So Columbus also sent the Taínos to Spain to be sold as labor and to also show the people in Spain who the natives were. So enslavement, or Christopher Columbus enslaved them to work on plantations that European explorers started. So the big plantation or the crop that they grew was sugarcane. Now, I know in American history you talk a lot about cotton and that with like cotton plantations, but actually sugarcane was the most popular crop to grow on a plantation outside of the United States. So they also enslaved them to work in gold mines, and Christopher Columbus allowed his men to sexually abuse and murder Taino women. There are lots of other examples of the dehumanizing and unjust ways Europeans treated natives during the late 1400s into the early 1500s, and even beyond that. These were just the Columbus examples. If you want to learn more, you can let me know. I can dig up some resources. All right, now let's talk about conquistadors. So we talked about conquistadors in Unit 10, Mesoamerica and South America, but I never truly defined who they were. So here's my next question for you. What do we know about conquistadors from Unit 10? So conquistadors are an explorer from Spain who came to North America to find riches and resources. So Spain was the first European country to settle the Americas. That's why a lot of cities, especially older cities, are Spanish names. So especially like in Florida and stuff like that, there's a lot of Spanish names. They were also here to set up colonies. So a colony are lands that are controlled by another farther away country. And the purpose of a colony is to gain resources and claim land for glory. So why did European countries send explorers to the North and South America? There are three big reasons: God, glory, and gold. So, God. On the surface level, explorers wanted to save native souls and convert them to Christianity. But this was all a cover. That was false. The truth was that they wanted to use Christianity as a means of suppression to the natives, because those who would deny or disobey the Christian rules would get killed. The Catholic Church also gave explorers money to take over foreign lands. Then we have glory. So, European countries were in competition with each other. European countries were also battling each other over land use. European countries were running out of resources on the mainland. Because Europe, is a continent. Yeah, there's a lot of land, but there's not that much land. So they needed to steal resources from other parts of the world. More resources meant that the more powerful the country. And this is the same reason why Europe goes in and invades Africa as well, and we'll talk about that in our imperialism unit. Then we have gold. So gold means money. Money means wealth. Wealth means more power in Europe. And Central and South America had gold and other precious metals. So Francisco Pizarro, we talked about him a little bit last unit. So he's also a conquistador. He landed in Peru in 1532, which was the Inca Empire. He had an army about 200 Spanish men and a few thousand native allies, just like we learned back in the Great Inca Rebellion video. And he captured the Inca Emperor Atahualpa, despite Atahualpa having 30,000 unarmed men to protect him. The Spanish still defeated all those men. So Pizarro, once he had his hands on Atahualpa, had a ransom to get Atahualpa back. And the price that the Incas had to pay is that they had to fill one room full of gold and two rooms full of silver. And the Inca people did that. They gave Pizarro the gold and the silver. Pizarro ended up killing Atahualpa anyways. All right, next we're going to talk about the mixing of blood. So, when Spanish conquered southern United States, Mexico, Central America, and South America and settled colonies, there were no women that came with them over on the ships, okay? So all those first few ships that came over from Europe to the Americas, it was all men. So Spanish conquistadors had babies with native women. These children and their children after that were considered mestizos, which literally translates to mixed. So this is very important, and this will be important going on into the next few units as well. But the Spanish, as well as other European countries, and frankly, some countries around the world, practiced pseudoscience and racism. Pseudoscience are practices and ideas not based on scientific studies and are mixed with racist ideologies. Okay. I'm going to say that one more time because it's that important. Pseudoscience are practices and ideas not based on scientific studies and are mixed with racist ideologies. So the Spanish thought of their mestizo offspring not as pure blood Spaniards. They would treat their mestizo offspring as subhuman or not as human. The Spanish even made a hierarchy of who's more pure blood, depending on parents, and this hierarchy was called castas or castes. So at the very top of the Spanish caste, you would have the peninsulares, and those were the Spaniards born in Spain. Below them were the creoles. They were the Spanish people who were born in the Americas, but their parents were fully Spanish. Then you have the mestizos. Those are people who are born of Spanish and Native American Indian parents. Below that, you would have the Native American Indians, and below that would be the enslaved people. So Spain believed in this hierarchy so much that they would actually commission painters to paint what like mixing of blood would look like. So I'll kind of flip through these. All right, next let's talk about encomienda. And this translates to parcel in English, kind of like a parcel of land. It is a system under the Spanish conquistadors that the natives were forced and other non-pure blood Spanish to farm and also mine. So, encomienda, again, mostly native people, but it also could be mestizos or African descents. So, with the mestizos, sometimes, like the Spanish conquistadors, were even enslaving their own children. And the conquistadors promised the Spanish king and queen to treat their workers very fairly, but they were liars. They physically abused them, they forced them to work in dangerous mines. All right, that was a lot of heavy information today, so let's stop for today. So today we learned about conquistador, colony, God, Glory, and Gold, Francisco Pizarro, Atahualpa, Mestizo, and encomienda. Next up, we're going to watch U11-L3, Basics of the Age of Exploration Part 2. If you have any questions or comments or want to learn more, please let us know. We're here to help. Thanks for watching.